Good evening, fight fans. JaysFightTalk here with a post-fight reaction as such, or recap. I have my No Punches Pulled co-host and Liam's Fight Night Picks host over on STBX. Liam Tulley, how we doing, brother?
Yeah, all good, mate. Still coming down from the weekend. What an incredible night of fights that was. Still up there in the clouds.
Unreal. I've just listened to, I've just watched mine and Sam's live watch along. I've listened to the podcast on Spotify. I crashed and burned on Saturday night, so I came off the live. Liam kept it going a bit, and I had to go. I just literally crashed. Jabbit Boxing's joined us. How you doing, brother? Good evening. So yeah, straight in, mate. Straight in. Obviously, me and Sam did a live watch along. You were in the audience in prime seats. I think you got. You were sat near the walking sort of route, weren't you? So there's
just
past you.
Yeah, normally where the corner flag would be, kind of. It would normally be where the corner flag is for a football game. So decent seats.
Yeah. Definitely. So good seats. Then you had a really good view by all accounts.
Yeah, it was not bad, mate. Not bad.
Good.
There's one corner of the ring that was cut off by those annoying Riyadh season blue poles, but other than that, I could see everything. So just had to look at the screen a bit, but nothing.
I think Riyadh season advertising got in everybody's way, as we saw from the canvas, was causing an issue or two for certainly the Catchy and Warrington fight. They were sat on each other's chest, sort of in the centre of the ring, which is where the branding was. They consistently lost footing. They're going to have to do something about that, because I think if it had started raining, we're lucky it didn't rain. I think that could have been very, very problematic. You'll have to excuse me about me. I'm sat on the edge of my bath. Should we start? We'll start at the start. Chamberlain and Padley. I think Padley came in as a 12-1 underdog. I think I heard. I can't remember who I heard. I heard one of the not commentator, but one of the additions to the commentary team say that this fight was lost at the weigh-in. Padley had said something about, he was happy to be here, and he was grateful for the opportunity, and they took that as him sort of turning up to take a paycheck, and he sort of tipped that on his head. I mean, you were there. What do you think of the performance or the matchup as such?
So wasn't in the stadium for this fight. I was travelling, getting a bit of rubbing. Having watched it back since, Padley done exactly what we thought Chamberlain would do in terms of how aggressive he started, how willing he was to be on the front foot. And it was almost the Mark Chamberlain we've seen at Riyadh season shows so far this year from Padley. He didn't give a damn. He went out there knowing that this was his chance, and he was happy to take punches to land his own. But the difference was, going got tough, he dug his toes into the canvas and kept going. He kept throwing his power shots. He stuck to his game plan. Whereas Chamberlain, the first time, looked confused, looked like, what am I meant to be doing here? It's almost as if Mark Chamberlain had never been tested before. We know he has been tested, but mentally and psychologically, clearly,
know what to do.
Riyadh season and Uncle Turkey's favourite fighter. By the way, he was only there for the last round of that fight, Turkey. Clearly starting to believe his own hype too much, because that was Mark Chamberlain at the start of this year that would have done anything to win that fight, but he just looks a completely different fighter, looked complacent almost.
Yeah, I think I got the feeling that I got the feeling like he felt like all he had to do was turn up and sort of go through the motions. I don't believe that he felt Padley had anything to offer him. We saw that he started getting frustrated. He got points deducted and had several warnings. Jabbit said, Mark really struggled to cope with the in and out movement of Padley, coming in with punches in bunches, struggled to find the jab. I agree. He just he couldn't get his rhythm, couldn't read Padley's timing. I mean, Padley, let's not take away from Padley like Mark Chamberlain's underperformed, because I think Padley boxed out of his skin last night and certainly put himself on the map. He more than excelled what I thought or expected of him. I did say on our sort of prediction, we did a sort of a prediction show at the weekend, and we'd spoke about it previously on No Punches Pulled last week. I did say that Chamberlain was going to get a tough point decision.
You did, yeah.
Evening, Sam. That's our other co-host at No Punches Pulled. Couldn't be with us tonight, but he's with us in spirit. Yeah, I think Sam had gone for an easy night's work. I can't remember what you said. I know you went for Chamberlain, didn't you? But I don't know whether you'd said it would be a stoppage or a TKO. I can't quite remember, but I think we all picked Chamberlain to win.
I said Chamberlain by stoppage. I think for me, Padley, we said during the week, didn't we, that Padley, just because we hadn't heard of him because he'd been doing, your small hall shows, doesn't mean he wasn't, as Jabbit said here, a live dog in this fight. Everyone underestimated him. Mark Chamberlain, Turkey, Frank Warren, everyone apart from him, his 3 cornermen, and probably his family had completely written him off for this fight. I'm sure there's some people in Doncaster that made an absolute shed ton of money on that first fight.
Yeah.
And he allowed himself to get that performance by allowing Chamberlain to become frustrated. So when Mark was complaining to the referee or unable to establish his jab, Padley wasn't necessarily doing a lot, was he? But he was doing just enough to upset Chamberlain.
Yeah.
So by the time he was knocked down in the 8th and the points deduction in the 9th, Chamberlain's head had fallen clean off 3 or 4 rounds before.
He'd lost it by then.
Yeah. He lost that fight. By the 6th round for me, he'd lost that fight. And then the last 4 rounds just got progressively worse and worse. And I hope I'll get an opportunity on one of these shows again. He should be, fighter like this, he should now become what Mark Chamberlain is, and he should get the opportunities because fair play to him. He absolutely maximised the moment.
He should get the rub of the green off the bat. He should get sort of the momentum off the back of Chamberlain. I'd like to think if Uncle Turkey thinks as much as he says he does about Chamberlain, then he should have no qualms about maybe putting the rematch on another Riyadh season card to give Padley another opportunity, another payday, a load more eyeballs on what I'm just going back to Chamberlain himself. What it felt to me is once he'd lost it, so once plan A and plan B and plan C didn't work for him, he sort of run out of ideas and he looked lost. He didn't know what to do. His corner team were giving him instruction. He wasn't sticking to what they were telling him to do. And the frustration took over and he completely, like as you say, completely lost it. And once he lost it, he couldn't get it back.
Yeah. I think
the fight went away from him.
We'll come on to this more on Wednesday, but just to raise that as a point, he was told Sam Noakes for the European strap, and they would have probably got the Commonwealth on that. So, Frank would have pulled a few strings, or Dennis Barancic for a WBO belt in February in Saudi. Those were on his mind. You could tell they were. They were 100% what was in his mind, more than the person in front of him on Saturday night. And it's an adage of his time. Never overlook the person in front of you. But that's a very real example on Saturday because he wasn't beaten on a razor thin decision. He was completely outboxed for 6-7 rounds of the fight and didn't even look like winning it for me. If
we weren't boxing fans and somebody took us and said, I'm going to show you Uncle Turkey's favourite fighter, and we didn't know who was who, and we watched that fight, we would have both said that Padley was Chamberlain. He boxed like he was the boy. He was the man that had an opponent brought in. Because let's be real now. Let's be honest. And I know we're going to touch on this in more detail on No Punches Pulled, but for me, I've lost my train of thought. Then I had a little nugget then, and I've lost my train of thought. But basically, what I was getting at is no one believed in Padley, and I think that's what spurred him on to box. To what Steffi Bull gave him, if you listened in between corners, Steffi Bull, who's a well-established boxer himself, and an unheralded coach, he's probably the king of the king of grassroots boxing and the small hall shows because he's been filling small hall shows with his own promotion and he works with a lot of the promoters. You see a lot of his fighters, get fights on big shows, and he sort of goes under the radar, does Steffi. So I'd like to just give him his props because it's a team sport. I know boxing is classed as an individual sport, but there's a lot goes on behind the scenes and people don't get the sort of plaudits. I know Steffi's not bothered about, getting put up on a pedestal, but I'd just like to give him his flowers for that because no one really expected Padley to. That's what it was. He was brought in as a layup, but he's got an undefeated record, so they could bill it as, 50-50, this is a test. But they didn't think that, or they wouldn't have brought Padley in. If they'd have thought it were going to go out how it went, they'd have never have brought him in. They'd have brought a journeyman in.
No, this is it, mate. And I think we're going to touch on it more on Wednesday, but that point you just made, boxing is a team sport. A boxer, a fighter that trusts his corner unequivocally will do better than a boxer that does it on his own and what he thinks is right when he doesn't have full trust in his corner. We will leave that for Wednesday. I know you know what I'm getting at there, but that is can make a massive difference in this sport. Absolutely.
Nope, I totally agree. Right, we'll leave that one there then, because we're going to end up doing 2 hours and we can't. We've got a podcast booked for either tomorrow or Wednesday where we're going to go into great detail and sort of analyse and psychoanalyse the whole fight card. Trying to remember the running order. Was it Davis and Josh Kelly next?
Pretty boy-ish after that.
Yeah, disappointed me this fight. I did pick Ishmael Davis. I think I sort of went with my heart rather than my head. Originally, I'd said that Josh Kelly, it's too soon for Ish. And, you know, and I think it sort of proved as such, not in the case that he wasn't ready, but I'm going to contradict myself. Not that he wasn't ready for this kind of stage, but I don't believe his body was ready for this kind of stage at this kind of notice, 6 days notice. You could see that, for me, he held on to a bit of his gas. He held on to a bit. And then when he saw the finish line and put it on Josh Kelly,
the last round he stuck it on,
beating him. He won the last 2 rounds for me, but barely won a round before that. And I know that he will be disappointed in himself. As I say, I know him through somebody else. I'm not going to pretend that I know Ish, but I speak to him on Messenger and stuff.
Yeah.
And I did send him a message before, and I sent him a message straight after and just said, look, proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. You took it on 6 days' notice. The biggest, shit he didn't want to hear from a nobody like me. But I thought I needed to say it because there's no disgrace in that defeat. We know that Josh Kelly's not world class. He looks world class on the pads, but he proved it. If he was as good as they said he was, and he said he was, he should have dealt with Ishmael Davis a lot handler than he did, because Ishmael Davis was a restricted fighter for me. 6 days notice. Yes, he was training for a fight. He was training for a fight in 4 weeks. So we both know that his weight cut isn't done until the last week.
So, go on, mate. Sorry, finish your point.
No, finished. I finished.
It's an interesting one, mate, because I said it when I saw how big Ish looked on the scales on Friday. Bearing in mind that was 2 or 3 hours after the official weigh-in as well. So he probably started his rehydration and carb loading, etc., etc. But that's because he also probably only cut 2 or 3 pounds from where he was last week because he was training to get down to 154.
To 154.
He was at that point in his training camp where making 160 was probably. Well, he probably had a bit of a sweat on the treadmill for 20 minutes and he was at the weight kind of thing with where he was at in his training camp. And you're right, it was a disappointing fight. I got in there 30 seconds into the first round, sat down. By the end of the second round, I said to my missus, you know the pattern of this fight. The Ish is going to have a go, but he's just not going to have his time in there. And Josh is just going to throw his combinations, look flashy, and win it on points. And when Ish stuck it on him in the last round, I was really pleased he'd done it. But it was too little too late.
Too little too late. I think if he'd have done that maybe 7 or 8, it'd have been different. Jams has said the last round for Davis was fantastic, especially as his camp was cut in half, 4 to 8, as we just said. To have power in the last round was immense. Very proud of his performance. Yeah, we all are, and I think eventually he will be, but he's a proud man. His ego's been hurt there because I think he saw an opportunity for himself in terms of, as we said with Padley, he could have got some of the gloss off Josh Kelly and announced himself on the big stage. I know he had a big fight against Troy Williamson, who was another name in 154, 160. But that was a while since now, and he's sort of stagnated since then. I think he's had 1 fight, has he, since? No, I don't believe he has. Has Josh Kelly had a fight since then?
Yes, 1 in Sunderland last December, a 3-round blowout.
I'm disappointed with Josh Kelly, though, me. It looked like once that cut opened up, it really bothered him. He was constantly looking at the clock like he was gassing. And let's be honest, he ran away I know it's about hit and don't get hit, but there's avoiding getting hit and running away. And Josh Kelly got his trainers on and just ran. And then when Davis trapped him, he clung on for dear life. There's a running theme there. Avanesian boxed the ears off him, eventually caught him, cornered him. Josh Kelly crumbled. Davis trapped him, cornered him, made him look vulnerable, but Josh Kelly just had enough to get away from him, whereas Avanesian at 147 just put it on him. I'm assuming Josh will blame weight, etc. He's a natural 154. But I think there's a running theme there. I think there's a blueprint of beating Josh Taylor, and just keep doing it, Josh Kelly. I don't know why I'm mixing them two up. And I think Ishmael Davis will kick himself when he watches it back. For me, I'd like to see him run it back with a full fight camp, because Josh Kelly hasn't gone any further up in my estimations. I mean, who am I? But I've spoke to other people about it, and a lot of people were sort of underwhelmed by Josh Kelly's performance.
I agree with you, mate. I wanted to see Josh Kelly make a statement. When it was Liam Smith, I wanted to see him make a statement. When it was a standing opponent on 8 days' notice, I was like, right, now there's kind of no excuse for you not to make this statement. Yes, we know Ish's talented, but he hadn't even realistically been up to that level before. There's no reason now not to make a statement. What it was for me was a typical Adam Booth, I want my fighter to look really sexy, pitter-patter, and that's all he's going to do. There was never any acceleration through the gears. He never looked to try and get Ish out of there. And as good a trainer as Adam Booth is, I think we can all agree, bar David Haye, you can't really say he's ever had a born killer that goes in there, smells blood, and gets finishes. It's
Ryan Burnett, maybe. Ryan Burnett, to a degree, maybe.
Ryan Burnett was volume as opposed to power, wasn't it? It was his volume was that quick.
Yeah.
This is what Josh Kelly could be. This is what Josh Kelly could be, but for whatever reason, he doesn't do it. But yeah, underwhelming performance. Ish's stock has gone up. I'd love to see it with a full training camp. The only way you're going to get it now, though, Josh won't go near him unless it's ordered or mandated for, say,
he's not.
And that's about all I can say on that one, mate, because it's
it's poor. Jams has said Troy was the only yardstick between them before this fight, but we didn't get the full Davis. I agree. Let's see it again, fellas. Yeah, I agree, Jams. I'd like to see it again. Team Kelly aren't going to go anywhere near that fight. They're going to call for, I don't know who they're going to call for. I mean, is he going to call for anybody at 160? I think Josh Kelly's better off at 154. I think if Liam Smith had turned up, Liam Smith would have stopped him on that performance. But obviously, with his hindsight, I'd like to see them make Kelly Smith.
Yeah, I'd like to see them make Smith. If Liam still can get through a training camp, if Liam can still fight,
I mean, if we're going off all the noise that's come out of the Smiths, it is just a virus, and it isn't the end of the end. So let's see. Jams has said he might go after the beefy fight still, to be honest, just for the name. Yeah, I think it's a bad move for him. I think he gets beat, but there's not really that, where else can he go? There's no fights jumping out there for me, so we'll just have to see. We'll talk about it on Wednesday.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, no, we're set. We'll keep a powder for Wednesday.
We've got to keep some powder dry, haven't we?
Kakachi and Warrington into that. That's the next fight. Kakachi and Warrington is next up.
Kakachi and Warrington. Now I've watched this again, and when I watched it live, it was a lot closer than when I watched it again. I could have given that a draw on the night. I don't know how you felt watching it live, but when I watched it back, I think the first 6 rounds were close, but then Kakachi seemed to pull away from him for me and won it by 3 or 4 rounds. How did you feel watching it sort of live, Liam?
That was, I said to you boys, because I messaged you, didn't I, for a yardstick around 7 rounds asking how you boys were scoring it, because that for me was the most difficult fight all night to score. Through the whole 12 rounds, I haven't been able to watch it back yet. I only got back from being away this afternoon, so I haven't been able to watch it back. But on the night, that felt a messy, niggly, not a cagey fight, but it felt like they were both in a phone box and they were all doing similar work, if that makes sense. I agree with Jams. It was billed as being the fight of the night, and we were expecting fireworks. We got a few sprinklers, didn't we? A couple of few sparklers.
It threatened to catch fire a couple of times, didn't it? But then it sort of fizzled out.
On the night, I scored it 7-5 to Kakachi. I thought he'd just done enough. But again, I maintain it was very difficult to score. Because of how they were fighting, it was very difficult to score it being there live, unless you were in those seats that obviously had reserved for all the superstars that were there. Kakachi now, I want to see him go after another world champion.
God, Sugar Nunes, but he's the mandatory. I'm scared for him, to be honest.
Well, look, he said himself, hasn't he? He's either going to, if he doesn't fight Sugar, he's moving up to lightweight. Okay,
I mean, seems
he's going
big enough.
Yeah, he's big enough to do it. He's admitted himself. Josh Warrington laid his gloves in the ring at the end of the fight. I hope that means he's done. Fantastic servant. Josh Warrington's career will hopefully age better now he's finished, if that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It will be much more appreciated in 2, 3, 4 years than he is right now.
I think he's got, I mean, I understand why he's done it, and I get why he's done it. But on that performance last night, he still has something left for me at super feather or feather. But I understand that being a 2-time world champion, he's probably made a decent amount of money. He probably got £500,000 for that fight. Does he want to try take another run at because he's not going to go straight back into a world title. A lot of people didn't think he deserved this fight. I know it wasn't necessarily for a world title, but it should have been or could have been. Is he going to want to do another run? I think that's what's made him do it. And you know what? Props to you, mate. We see too many champions going out on their ass or face down ass up. He didn't get embarrassed. He didn't get his ass handed to him. He was in a decent fight. He got edged by a strong world champion. To be fair, there's one thing there, though. They've got very similar stoppage records. Where's this Kakachi? I know he's got power, but they were billing it like it's devastatingly powerful, and I don't see that.
Mate, this is what I said in the week. Everyone's going at Anthony Kakachi. He's a killer. Oh my God, he's got stones in his hands. Hold on a minute. Yes, he had the fight of his life and stopped Joe Cordina to add the IBF to the prestigious IBO belt that he already held. Can't slag off the IBO, can we?
No.
But no, before that, he hadn't had a stoppage since 2015. Like, call your boots a bit. He had a devastating night where he finished off a fighter that no one gave him a chance against. But before that, he was fighting, I think it was Ulster Civic Hall or something, where he had his last stoppage. It was levels of where he was in his career at the time. Don't get me wrong. We know he's been injured. We know he's probably only had his last 2 fights where he's been close to 100% fit. But he's not a devastating power puncher. And as we've seen further up in the comments that the lads are throwing in, Sugar Nunes absolutely destroys Kakachi. Moving up to lightweight is probably the best way to prolong his career and have another run at a world title for me. Because if once Nunes flatlines him, I don't see him coming back.
No, I'm hoping he's had some big paydays and he can do like Warrington's done, maybe fight Nunes on a Riyadh season or an American card maybe, and maybe not ride off into the sunset, more like get carried on a gurney into the sunset, because I don't, and the t-shirt will be out this week, but I'm going to be as disrespectful and respectful as I can. That's no slight on Anthony Kakachi, but Sugar Nunes is, for me, one of the most devastating punches in the division. And he can box as well. He's not just all power. Sugar Nunes can fight.
Yeah, mate. You're exactly right. Sugar Nunes is the whole package. If he wants to box you for 12 rounds, he'll box you for 12 rounds. But as soon as he sees an opening, think of that body shot he landed on the Pacheco undercard. That had us all wincing. Like, that shows when he wants to throw the power, he will. It's almost as if he picks when he picks the switch. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We focus on this fight. Kakachi, another good win. It's a shame it wasn't for his IBF belt, but it's another win. Yeah. You're still a champion. If he moves up to lightweight, then we'll support him, because look, he's having an Indian summer, which is what we love. We all love a bit of a
Cinderella. Good luck to him, man. I love it. Love it. Love it. I like the fact that he's eventually broke through, because Carl Frampton told us about this kid 7 or 8 years ago, and it's taken him a while. Yeah. I think it was around Frampton fighting Warrington that he, mentioned him. But anyway, good luck to him. Good luck to Josh Warrington in whatever it is you choose. If you can get any cheap teeth, Josh, I'll be over at Leeds, mate. I could do with some like Mark Chamberlain, to be fair. Was it Buatsi and Willie Hutchinson next?
Buatsi and Hutchinson.
Couple of stages for me, couple of emotional stages for me in this fight. It caught fire straight away as such. It was sort of tit for tat. Willie Hutchinson was pot shotting Buatsi. Buatsi started to find his rhythm and then targeted the body. I said to Sam on the live that for me, Willie Hutchinson did look very fleshy and his shorts were really high. Now, I don't know whether that was just coincidental or whether he is vulnerable to the body and was trying to protect it with the high belt line. I know that most referees will call it anyway, even if the shot's high, you can't get away with that anymore. But the first proper body shot he got caught with gave a reaction, and I think Buatsi saw that, and then that was it. He was just targeting the body. The only disappointing thing for me is that he moved away from that after knocking him down a couple of times and started headhunting, and then seemed to just plateau.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's an interesting performance. There's a lot more I'm going to say on this on Wednesday, so I'm probably going to be a bit succinct in this one. But
yeah.
I said that Willie would have some manners put on him by Buatsi, that his mouth was writing checks he couldn't cash. That was proven.
That happened. Yeah, that happened.
Regardless of the scorecards, which I'm going to rant more on Thursday.
Not
he won
tonight because
he won 10, 11 rounds. No. He ran 10, 11 rounds of that fight for me, Buatsi. Hutchinson had his moments, but he wasn't doing enough in the fight. The referee called the trunks being too high at the start of the fight, and he was constantly pulling them down. So there was definitely something there. And I mentioned on Friday when me and Sam done the weigh-in that Willie looks fleshy. So yeah, it was an interesting one.
I'm not calling him
himself in A1 position now for whatever happens after the unification next month.
Yeah, it's a shame for me that Yard's tied up in this bloody dispute with Queensberry, because I think they nearly made that fight earlier in the year. I think that's the fight for me.
That's the fight for me. I'll get into it on Wednesday, mate. But
even Lyndon Arthur, though. What about Lyndon Arthur as a test? I think Lyndon Arthur would give Buatsi a good fight.
Yeah,
Lyndon's not really got a fight.
Depends what Lyndon turns up. Depends what Lyndon turns up.
If Lyndon turns up, it's a scrap. But we all know that depends what Lyndon turns up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Anyway, that's another good fight. It's good to see Buatsi do what he should have done, if that makes sense. He didn't fall on the banana skin, that's all, and he moves on. We'll see what comes next.
Yeah, we'll chat more about the scorecards. I think I had it wide like you, but we'll go into that when our third wheel's with us. Co-main event then, was it? Hamza Shiraz and Tyler Denny. What can you say? Give Hamza Shiraz a world title. Give him a world title fight. He deserves it now. He's proved that was the best of the rest in terms of domestic. Tell me somebody at middleweight in the UK that would give Hamza Shiraz a better test. I mean, we can reel names off, yeah, but realistically, Tyler Denny's the best of the rest. Really, I know he's not British champ, but that's only because he got tied up with Nathan Heaney and Brad Pauls for a couple of fights. So he's gone off and won the European. The first exchange of the fight, Tyler Denny got hit behind the ear and never recovered, and it was target practice. Then
it wasn't even that. It was the levels there are to Hamza Shiraz. He could have won that fight 3 or 4 different ways. If he wanted to go headhunting, so to speak, and finish it with devastating headshots, he could have done that. But he went for the body because he realized that Denny's guard was so high, he just had to touch to the body and he'd be having an impact. And let's be honest, that first body shot, as well placed as it wasn't a hard shot. It was just the rangefinder trying to find this distance with getting to the body. But he placed it perfectly. Yeah. And it took the wind out of Tyler. I agree with you. Get the man, Carlos Adames, in February in Saudi and let him become a world champion, because his days are numbered at 160. He said himself, he can't keep boiling his frame down.
168, Chris Eubank. 168, Chris Eubank. What I really rate, I tell you what I really rate about Hamza Shiraz, his lack of movement, and I'm going to explain that. His movement is very minimal, very orthodox style, long, lean, but doesn't stand up right. So he's got a bit of a bend in his midriff. He's tight. His defense is impregnable. Little subtle movements. There's no space. Even though his body's so long, he's not leaving any space. You can maybe go behind his elbows, but by the time you've gone behind his elbows, he's countering you with an overhand right or left. He's very little minimal movement, and his precision is what does it for me. I know he hits hard, which he does, but I think it's the fact that he's so precise with his shots that does most of the damage. Like you said, that body shot wasn't necessarily thrown with that much venom and spite. Did what it needed to do. The initial knockdown was a clumping shot behind the back of the ear. It scrambled Tyler Denny and he never recovered. God bless him, he wanted to fight on, but he would have got absolutely flatlined if they'd have left it.
Yeah, and mate, I completely agree with you. Hamza's done this to pick up the European strap, so he can say that he's ticked off the European on the way. But if we're really honest, we know what the fight is. We know it's Carlos Adames. We know it's a WBC belt. He'll win that. He'll win defense for me, I reckon, because Canelo should have left 168 by then, and then he'll move up to 168. And like this comment says here, I fancy him against any of the next wave of 168s. Let's not talk about Canelo because I don't think Canelo.
No, can I pick a couple of fights for him in the next 12 months? Caleb Plant, Caleb Plant, Belanga.
Yeah,
Just
mate, that's
for
the
the
two
American market. For the American market.
That's the two I'm
They
thinking.
would be firefights.
I agree with you, mate. They're the two I'm thinking.
Firefights.
Caleb Plant will probably have a world title by the time Hamza moves up.
Yeah. So there's plenty there for Hamza, isn't there? But we'll talk about that on Wednesday. We're just touching on it briefly. I think that's it, mate. I don't think there are any more fights on the card. What do you reckon? We'll just call it a day there. I think there was a couple of journeymen had a little bit of...
Didn't stay on left.
Right, we got the big one. We saw Anthony Joshua come out second, which he shouldn't have done, but hey ho. Yeah, we saw Daniel Dubois absolutely beat the shit out of Anthony Joshua. And I'm not trying to be nasty. I'm not being pedantic. I'm not trying to get a giggle. But let's be real. That fight, I mean, he hit Dubois in the 5th before the finish, rushed in and got clipped. Other than that, it was all one-way traffic.
It was an absolute steamrolling from the moment AJ went down at the end of the first round. I mean, I looked at my missus about 90 seconds into the first round and went, there's no movement from AJ. There's nothing there. He can't establish his jab. This doesn't look right. That was me 90 seconds into the fight. When he got knocked down the first time, fantastic shot from Dubois. But because I said in my prediction, I think AJ is going to have to get up off the floor, I was like,
you weren't worried.
This is what he needs to do. Like, right, that's a big knockdown. They had him up on the screen, big corner. They had him up in his corner on the big screen. I was like, oh shit, he doesn't look good here. But Dubois never let AJ settle. I don't care. You can break this fight down 1,000,001 ways, and there's all the conspiracy theory crap that is just exactly that crap online. The reality is, Dubois sets about AJ 10 seconds into the fight and stayed setting about AJ until he was flatlined on the floor trying to do a flipping head spin like the breakdancers at the Olympics. And we didn't see a smile from the man until he's back in the changing room. If you see the first smile we see from him is when Frank Warren gives him that awkward hug, which just sums up Dubois all over.
It was awful, wasn't it?
He stayed business. I watched Dubois leave the ring because I stayed in the stadium, and he still was businesslike. He just walked back there. He had the belt on his shoulder. He's fist bumping people.
Wasn't surprised. I don't think he was surprised. I think they believed they had to, but you know, some fighters say what they're going to do, and it's more of a hope. I think Team Dubois felt it, and they knew. I've said this all week. It's about timing, and I think they saw that the time was right. He'd improved enough, and AJ had stagnated, or maybe even gone backwards, because the right that he gets caught with at first, ordinarily he wouldn't get clipped with that. He'd be quick enough to just move his head, because he's moving. It's very similar to when George Groves got caught by Carl Froch. He sees it coming, so he turns his head with it because he thinks it's going to sort of glance, but he's just not quick enough, and bam, he's asleep. I think Joshua, ordinarily, a couple of years ago, may have got away. I think this is a different fight 2-3 years ago. Confidence as well played a massive part in that.
So Joshua last fought at Wembley in 2018 when he took on Povetkin. That Anthony Joshua would have beaten the
killer.
Absolutely, killer. Absolute killer instinct. That's the level of AJ we're talking about. Since the Ruiz fight, there's been a slow decline. He's had moments where he seems to be leveling back out again, but if we're really realistic, there's been a decline. But no one has done that to Anthony Joshua. Again, I'm reining myself in. I'm keeping myself dry for Wednesday night, but no one has done that to Anthony Joshua. When he lost to Ruiz, okay, he was dropped 4 times, but he finished on his feet. Both Usyk fights were points defeats, but he had moments in the Usyk fights. Before he was dropped by Ruiz, he had won the first 2.5 rounds. He had landed a knockdown. He was in control against Ruiz. Usyk, the second fight was closer than the first fight for me. He had a bit more about him in the second fight, Joshua. He didn't turn up at Spurs, but he gave it a go. He gave it a go. He did not look competitive in that fight on Saturday night. And when he was winging that attack in on Saturday before he got finished, everyone was excited around me. I'm looking at it going, left himself open. The punches are coming from his hips. There's no defense. And just as I went to say that out loud, he got hit with that right hand that completely finished him off. It was amateur in terms of the style. Punches from the hips.
Well,
tripping up.
I mean, the punch that stops him is not even going that hard or fast. It's just timing. You can see Dubois takes one and he looks and he's just waiting and waiting and waiting. I think there is a clip mid-round 4 to 5 where Joshua says that Dubois shit. His words, not mine. And they're saying to him, roll the dice, throw the right uppercut. Then they cut to Shane McGuigan, who's overheard that, and he says that is the worst thing to do. He needs to just keep his hands up and get through the next couple of rounds. A minute and a half later, AJ's face down, arse up, and that's all she wrote. I'm disappointed in AJ's performance. I'm not surprised in Dubois winning. We know I've dined out on it for 36 hours. I did call I think I even said that Dubois had smashed him to pieces. I think I did actually say that.
You said that's what's on Friday night. You said that's what's on Friday night, mate.
I nearly changed my mind. But couldn't you not see the difference? The confidence on Dubois walking to the ring, dressed like Tyson, screaming. You've never seen him that animated. You've never seen him like that. It would have taken some man to beat him on Saturday night. And AJ wasn't that guy. He isn't that guy anymore for me. But
that, mate, completely right. I'm going to
stop there.
Yeah, I'm going to keep myself minimal, just reply to you. As I said to you boys when we spoke yesterday, the ring walks came right past me. As they were coming up to the ramp, they were literally like this away from me. Dubois had the eye of the tiger. He looked pissed off. He looked angry. And he just had it about him. AJ looked like AJ always does. I've given up reading into how AJ looks on ring walks because it's just the way he is, if that makes sense. He's never filled me with confidence on ring walks. If I believed how he looks on a ring walk, then Klitschko would have sparked him out in a round, if that makes sense. He just has a way
I think that's where I think the ring walk is where he has the internal battles within himself, because you see him go through phases. He'll come out all stoic and then you'll see him sort of drop the facade and he'll be gulping breath and he'll be taking it all in. I think that's where he deals with psyching himself up.
He loves the stadium fights. He said it himself. He loves the stadium fights because he loves having that larger crowds. But I tell you what he doesn't love, those elaborate long ring walks. Think about a ring walk in an arena compared to a stadium.
You're in 30 seconds, aren't you? 45 seconds.
And that is, we'll come into this more on Wednesday, so please cut me off in a minute. But that is what makes a massive difference. At Spurs against Usyk, I thought it's similar with that ring walk, too long, too elaborate. I know you've got to do it in a stadium, it's fair enough, but I thought the same on Saturday. The 6 minutes Dubois spent in the ring waiting for AJ to get there is where that fight was won and lost for me in the psychological battle. Yeah.
We'll nip it there, mate, because I don't want to go in any
No, let's not.
That's it, really. We just wanted to come on and do a quick wrap-up show, just to air something because I was bursting, and I can't wait till Wednesday. So thank you everybody for tuning in, everybody for interacting. Liam, I'll catch up with you probably later on tonight and tomorrow and the next day. Thanks for joining me, brother. I appreciate you jumping on at such short notice. As always, make sure you follow Liam_Tulley9. Keep your eyes peeled. I believe you'll be recording episode 3 tomorrow.
Episode 3 recording tomorrow will be out for you all to watch Wednesday lunchtime. Bouncing around the world this week, boys. So strap in.
So make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, JaysFightTalk's my handle on X and YouTube. Plenty of content on there. And then also follow the third wheel that's not here. I've got to give him a shout out. Sam Walker of SW Fight Up, who will be with us in the driving seat on Wednesday at 7:30 for the No Punches Pulled packed podcast, which you can catch on YouTube, SW Fight Up's YouTube channel and Spotify. Thanks for joining. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.